What up, guys? Today we got a question from Chew Crew subscriber George. Chew Crew subscriber means he gets my daily email that I send out. He sent me an email the other day and he says, as a white belt, I'm concentrating on all these different things I know I need to be good at, like arm bars, kimuras, and etc. He says, but given that I don't actually know what I'm good at yet, I try a bit of everything, and he's wondering, how do I actually pick the right technique to focus on? For instance, I like the look of triangles, but I seem to suck at them. I'm getting better at arm bars, but not from guard. Arm triangles from now seem like a really good one, but it doesn't feel diverse enough, and so he's looking for some suggestions to find the right techniques to focus on as a white belt. So George, thanks for the question, brother. So check this out, man. You will never know if you're picking the right technique, right? The way that you use the technique, train the technique, that's what makes it the right technique for you. Because what's going to happen is you're either going to develop this technique and become really good at it, or you're going to learn that it's not very good for you, it doesn't work, you don't like it, and you're going to move on, and you will then be able to discard that technique and not have to worry about it. I think about developing your jiu-jitsu game almost like developing a hand in poker, right? So for instance, if you played poker or know how the game works, I'm sure you do, you get dealt some cards. And you're trying to assemble these cards into a particular hand that will help you win the game, right? And so you look at your hand, you get your cards, you're like, okay, I don't need these two because I'm trying to put together whatever it is. So you discard those two cards and you exchange them for another two cards. And then you see what you can work together there, right? Well, similarly in jiu-jitsu, you're only going to get very good with a handful of techniques. It's not going to be very many. Understand that, especially at any given time. And so you're always playing this jiu-jitsu hand essentially against someone. And so you're trying to develop your hand of jiu-jitsu. And if you find that a technique or position is not working for you, you move on to something else. You discard it and you pick up something else to play with, something else to work on. Now in poker, we can only exchange cards so many times. But in jiu-jitsu, we can play this game basically as long as we're training. We can always try something new, exchange stuff for something else. And so you don't have to be worried about picking the right technique. You just pick a direction. Just go. And you will find out if it's the right direction by the way that you train things and your experiences with it. Now, I share this with you because you have to be careful with taking someone else's advice with something that has to do with you. Because I can tell you, I've given advice to my students. And again, this is why I always say this. You got to trust your own experience over everything else, because I've given my students advice that sometimes wasn't the best stuff for them. For instance, I had a really tall, lanky student once. He was asking for what to focus on. I told him, go for triangles. What does he do? He gets good at kimuras. Doesn't make any sense to me. He's like hunkered over the arm and it looks so awkward and it doesn't look like it should work because he's so long and there's so much space between the limbs, but damn it, he got good at them. One of my other students isn't very tall, and I remember, giving him some suggestions. You know what he does? He goes and gets good at triangles, like really good at triangles. We'd take him to tournaments and he would finish guys and he'd go through a whole division in like a couple minutes with triangles. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't have super long legs. But it was worked for him. And so again, I can give you ideas and suggestions, but my encouragement to you is you just pick directions. You go after stuff. If you said you like the look at triangles, try triangles out. You don't know if you're not good at them. By the way, you said suck. You probably don't suck at triangles. You're probably just not trained in them enough, right? You pick a direction, you develop them over time. For me personally, I always sort of aim for at least about 4 weeks of focus before I move on. And one last idea is that when it comes to picking the right technique, one thing to be on the lookout for is if it just seems like it fits a little bit. You'll find this out sometimes where you'll pick a technique, you'll learn a technique, whatever, and right from the moment, it just feels good. It feels like the right thing to do. And it almost reminds me of if like my wife's cooking dinner and I get a whiff of something and I'm like, that smells very pleasant. Let me go see what she's cooking. Or maybe she's wearing a perfume and that smells really nice and I want to move closer to her. You might get these sort of feelings with a particular technique that, this just feels like a good technique. It feels right for my body. I had that with half guard. I also had that with kimuras. And I was just drawn to them. And so you might experience that throughout your training. And that would also be a good idea to focus on as far as maybe a technique. So anyways, just some ideas to chew on, bro. Those are things I've done. And those are also things that you could possibly do for yourself. By the way, if you guys want to get my daily email, like George, you can do so by joining up using the links below. And I'll give you a free guide to add some focus to your open rolling and your open training in the gym to improve your skill a little bit faster. You can check it out in the links below. But anyway, I'm finished. Thanks for the question, guys. Talk to you next time.